Heavy Petting with Cheri Hardman, where comedians discuss their pets and their love lives. Heavy Petting. Welcome to Heavy Petting with Cheri Hardman. Today's guest is Zane. Hey, Katie, how are you?
Doing all right, doing all right. Charlie is itching to go. He's like, I'm done.
So this is Charlie. I've been excited to have you guys on.
Yeah, he's
Number
very
one,
pretty. He's a very, very pretty cat.
right, and I see him a lot on social media. So why don't you tell me about him and when you got him, and then whenever he wants to get down, let him do his thing. But
Okay, buddy. He'll probably like crawl around behind me. That's what he normally does when I'm on Zoom. Yeah, we adopted him in September. They said he was about 2 years old when we adopted him, but I think he might have been like more like one. I think they just thought he was older because of he's very big. We're
mm-hmm.
pretty sure he's a Norwegian forest cat, just based on his size and his markings. One of the cool things about where before we got him is he was actually kind of like a street cat who had been sort of taken in by a firehouse. So he was like a firehouse cat, I guess, for a little bit before he got to the rescue. And so we always like one of our goals after the pandemic is to go to the firehouse and like update them on Charlie.
Oh, well, that's cool. So did the pandemic have anything to do with the desire to adopt a pet?
Probably a little bit, but both my partner and I are big pet people and both pretty big cat people.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure it was I think it sped up the timeline of us getting a cat, but we probably
Mm-hmm.
would have always gotten a cat.
Yeah, they say a lot of people got pets because everybody thought, well, we're home, so we might as well. Now it'd be a good time.
Yeah.
Um, well, that's cool. So, do you have any other pets right now, or is Charlie the only one?
He is an only cat for right now, but we have designs on when we have a bigger place getting more animals.
Mm-hmm.
We want to have like a pact.
Yeah. Uh, so tell me about his special personality quirks.
So like he's a very easy cat. Like he doesn't do a lot of the atypical cat things that are really aggravating.
Mm-hmm.
His like funniest thing that he really does is that he sort of starts to ask for food like in the middle of the night. And so like if you this is kind of funny, like if you fart,
Mm-hmm.
like he'll run in and like hop on the bed because he'll assume you might be awake. So he'll like come like almost like he's called, but it's like a fart. And so like if I fart super loud in the middle of the night, like I know he's gonna jump up and then like come really close to my face. And he's not like loud or annoying. He just comes really close and is like, "What's up? Hi, hello, hello. I might be hungry." And sometimes if we come out and he's got zero like dry kibble, we'll give him a little dry kibble in the middle of the night.
Right.
And then he's chilled. He's like, "Okay, fine. I accept what you're willing to give me." But like, yeah, he overly buries his poop. That's one of his major cat quirks. It's like I and again, it's not that big of a deal. It's just a little annoying when you have to scoop the cat box because you have to like really mine for the poop in his box.
Right.
Because and I don't know how many times I've like probably missed stuff because he's like so good at putting it in there. But like he does that cat thing where if he smells something stinky, he tries to bury it. So
Mm-hmm.
like I always know like if there's like he also does this weird thing where there's like he's got long fur, right? So he gets like little stray turds will happen, but like just like little ones like the size of a dime. But like, and they've never been in a way, we've never stepped on them. They've just always been like, oh, there's a little tiny turd right there. That shouldn't be there. And then we just, pick it up, throw it away. But he like never leaves them inconveniently. It's kind of wild.
That's funny. I don't know if you saw this because I don't remember who posted it, but somebody on Facebook did a science project about whether your cat's, did you see this? Whether your cat's butthole touches the surfaces in your house. Like this was their kids' science project, was does your cat's butthole touch everything in the house? And it turned out that if your cat has short hair, yes, your cat's butthole touches everything in the house. But if your cat has long hair, it does not.
Well, that is good to know. That is really good piece of
I guess you get instead you get stray turds. So I don't know.
Well, and also like because of his long hair, and because like I don't know what his problem is. Maybe because like he didn't have a mom, but like sometimes he's not great at grooming his back end. So there's been a couple times where like I have these like wipes for his fur where I've literally had to wipe his ass. And I actually have a whole stand-up bit about how like I never wanted kids, I don't have kids, it's not for me, and I still end up wiping something's ass.
That's cute. Let's see what else. So if Charlie could write a review of you as a pet owner, what would he say?
Probably the most cuddly owner ever. We do a lot of head bumps, and so I probably think it would be a rave review of like this owner will give all the head bumps. I also let him groom me like sometimes because it's like he aggressively grooms sometimes when he's getting pet, and especially on like the shaved part of my head. So I would probably get a rave review of just allowing the grooming to happen.
All right. Let's think. Do I have any? I usually ask people like if they have a dog, do they do any tricks? Cats don't usually do tricks.
He comes when he's called like a dog. Like,
well, that's good.
Yeah. If you do like a particular like sound, like a little like type sound, he'll normally come. It took a while though. He was not into it at first, but now more and more. I think he understands if we call him that he's gonna get like love, or he's gonna get a toy, or he's gonna get food. So that like something good is coming. So finally he's picked up on it.
We have our newest cat does a weird thing because I think she thinks she's one of the dogs. She thinks she's one of the pack.
Oh, I love
like
that.
When we let the dogs out to go potty, she goes out and goes potty, and then she comes right back in. Like when they come in, like she doesn't go wander off like a cat normally would. So she's only like she stays in the backyard. It's just weirdest thing.
That's wild. I've never heard of a cat doing that.
I know. Yeah, she's a really odd cat, but whatever. Well, because I was adamant that cat was not going outside. There's too many things that can happen to them. But my husband, he's like, oh, she's fine. She just stays out right where I am. And I'm like, oh, but she does. So lucky for him.
Yeah, no, if Charlie wanted to go to the bathroom outside when Michael went to smoke cigarettes, and would just stay right with him, I would be so okay with that. But with like being in the city and with like the alley and the rats and all that, I'm like, no, one of that. Plus, if he goes outside, I have to get flea and tick stuff for him.
So what is your background?
It is, I think, I'm not 100% sure, a vintage Jurassic Park sheet. It's the flat sheet from a fitted flat sheet.
Oh, that's interesting.
We got a king size bed, and this was a full size set, and I was like, I don't know what we're gonna do with it. And so I actually used this as a background, and I used the fitted one to cover our futon. So our futon looks fancier than it used to.
Well, that's cool because it's really got that. I don't know. It's impressive. I like it. Okay, so you ready to switch over? Talk about heavy petting.
It took me so long to decide which story I wanted to tell.
I know.
It's so hard. I'm like, oh, which one? There's so many.
So now we're going to talk about heavy petting of the human variety, and I always like to explain that my hair is just the weirdest thing. The heavy petting is what we used to call like making out back in the day, going to third base or whatever. But for the purposes of this show, it can be anything from dating to love, sex, who cares, right? So,
Yeah.
you got a good story for us, which sounds like you have a couple. Go ahead and have at it.
Yeah. So, okay, when I was living back in Virginia, where I had moved out to California for 6 years and then moved back to my hometown. So it was sort of like tail between my legs, like a little bit like I'd gotten out and I had to come back. And it was sort of like I wasn't proud of being back. And I was working at this Harley Davidson dealership, which also not the place where most people I think would picture me working.
Mm-hmm.
But I was like working in the parts department. I was doing a very good job, but I worked with this other woman who was also named Katie. And like she was the kind of personality where you befriend them because you don't want to be not their friend. Because they're just that kind of person. You're like, I better
Right.
be this person's friend, or else I'm gonna have a hard time dealing with this human.
Right.
And so I befriended her, and she was like nice enough. She just had a lot of issues. Basically, that's really the best way to put it. And so we ended up hanging out all the time and like getting to be actual friends. And then she threw this like July 4th like pre-game barbecue party thing. Well, she was like, you can invite whoever you want. I was like, okay, great. And so I invited an old friend of mine whose name I'm going to change because I know he'll appreciate it. So for the purpose of the story, his name will be Brian. So I called up my friend Brian and I was like, yeah, you should come. There's gonna be loads of alcohol. And he was like, yes, there's beers. Yes. Okay, cool. Nice people. Cool. And he comes over and my friend from the place I worked at, the other Katie, she's like giving me this whole speech about like, you need to be appropriate with this person in my home and like don't have like sex anywhere because like my kids live here and all this and that. And in my head, I was like, this like really was just a friend, like somebody I knew from back in high school. Then I was like, yeah, no, we're just gonna get very drunk. Like sex. Ugh, I don't have sex with this person. I'm not gonna do that. Also, I thought I was the kind of person that like wouldn't have sex in a kid's room. Like I was like, no, why would I do that? That's awful. Awful people do that. um and and so like my friend came, we drank a fair amount of alcohol as expected, and then there was like all of a sudden there was like this like hardcore flirtation between me and my friend Brian that like I was like, wow, I've never really looked at this person like really it truly until like that day hadn't really looked at this person like in that way. They were like my safe guy friend, right? Like my safe guy friend that didn't hit on me and who was
Right.
like always like the guy you could call if you were in a bad situation kind of friend. And then like we're drinking, and then more and more I'm like, huh, how come I've never looked at Brian? Like, what is I've never really seen this side. Like, what's happening right now? And then apparently, like, he's having a similar experience where he's like, man, Katie looks really good right now. Like, I'm really, like, this is really fun. And we're just like doing very basic, dumb, like rednecky drinking things. Like, people are playing King's Cup and people are lighting off fireworks too close to trees. And just like people are,
Right.
doing their thing. So the night's like starting to wind down and it becomes very clear that like everyone has to sleep there, everyone's too wasted. So it becomes like, okay, you sleep on this chair, you sleep on this couch. And then my friend and coworker is like, oh, you two, because the thing that was really strange is like she was like, don't hook up, but then she was like, you two should totally go sleep in my daughter's room, just the two of you people who have been drinking a lot and that have been clearly having like sexual chemistry flying. You should sleep in there, but don't have sex in there. Like it was very much that. And then Brian and I did have sex, but like on the most inappropriate bed ever. It was like Barbie pink sheet set, like fantasy princess bed.
Right.
Like covered in stuffed animals, which we did move. I will be very clear about. Like we were like, get rid of the children things, and then have this sex, and then also like much to my surprise, very good and mind blowing sex because this friend had only had sex with one other person. Like because like that's the kind of guy he was. Like to this day, I think he's only had sex with like one more person, and this happened 10 years ago.
Right.
But yeah, no, like so, do the sex, wake up in the morning, have the awkward of trying to find a condom situation. You don't want to, that's a place you don't want to leave a condom. Somebody else's kid's bedroom.
Yeah.
Because you also again didn't think I was this person, like you didn't know I was gonna be that guy. And then also like immediately stripped the bed too. Like we stripped the bed and we're like, this should be washed right now. And so like how I broke it to the person that like, oh, this had happened was I was just like, we need to use your washer. And I suppose like what would have been a lot more dignified would have just been lying and been like, we pissed the bed. Like that would have been so much more dignified for the situation. But instead, me and my honestness, I just was like, yeah, we fucked on that. And you shouldn't let your daughter sleep on that until you've cleaned it. So we will happily put this in your washing machine and get the ball rolling for the cleaning. But yeah, no,
was she upset about it, or
yeah, she was pissed. Like she was really mad. And I was like, wait a minute though, like you like we all got really drunk, and then you were like, you two, like I was like, you sort
like she orchestrated it basically.
Yeah, I was like, you sort of enabled the situation. You can't get mad. I mean, okay, you're allowed to be mad, but also know that you played a role in this happening. Like just own up that like you did a weird thing too. Like I did a weird thing, but it's not my kid's bedroom. Like that, it's not my child situation. Like I'm not letting drunk people sleep in my child's bedroom. That's not a choice I made.
Well, at least the kid wasn't in there, so so
yeah. And that's the other thing that's the other thought process. I was like, this kid's not here. This room's gonna get cleaned. Like, it's like not like the kid's gonna know. Like, I'll know, and I'll always feel weird about it. But that's about it. And I think this is one of the stories that I haven't actually shared like comedically or on a podcast before.
That's original. It's original here.
Well, I think mostly because I'm like the guy in the story is like one of my dearest and oldest and still very closest friends.
So you still talk to him and everything
over stuff like this. So that's why I decided to omit his name.
I bet you don't talk to her anymore, or do you?
Nope. Our friendships sort of ended when we stopped working together. It was one of those kinds of friendships.
Right. Well, that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean the thing is like she literally braided my hair for me. So it's like a little bit I'm like, okay. I think I still have her Instagram or something, but that like is our own like tenuous.
Right. Connection. Yeah. What's the best compliment anyone's ever given your naked body?
It's not my naked body. Can I give the weirdest compliment a part of my body's been given? Is that the same?
No, but I want to hear it.
My favorite compliment was the guy that I lost my virginity to, actually. He told me that I had beautiful feet. He wasn't even like a foot guy. He told me I had beautiful feet, that they looked like some Italian peasant woman feet. He was like so specific. I was like,
now that's weird.
Well, also a little bit I'm like, but like also like you took my virginity, bud. like can't you say something like, well, also like every person I've ever slept with has said something nice about my vagina. Like every person I've ever slept with has been like, this is the most incredible pussy I've ever seen. Like literally, it's funny because it's not like I've had a lot of people at the show, but every time someone comes, they always have raving reviews.
Oh, that's funny. But I want to get back to the peasant feet. Does that mean that you're like stomped on grapes? Like you stomped on grapes, maybe?
I guess I have like thin, like at the time they were a little bit more thin than they are now, but I have like long, thin feet. And I have very long toes, like unusually long toes. And so I don't know if it was that, like you look like you could grab a whole grape with your toe. like you could pick it right off the vine.
That's funny. What do you have coming up? Anything
I
exciting? Oh, wait, are you doing any live comedy yet?
I am doing live comedy. I actually have the most exciting thing I have coming up is on June 10th. I'm making my official comedy club debut with Zane's comedy club here in Chicago.
Cool. Cool.
And
Do you know my friend? Do you know my friend Ken Hamlet? He's in Chicago.
that
In
sounds I know
Chicago
that
now.
name. I don't know if I know him, but I've seen that name around. Um and so yeah, no, that's the biggest thing I have coming up. And then I'm also hosting a show out of my apartment over the next few months out of my backyard because I didn't want to have to deal with the venue and I wanted to produce something. So I'm throwing it out of my backyard.
Let's go. Have you done any of those yet? Didn't you already,
Mhm.
did you do one?
I did my first one last Thursday,
That's
and it was nice and small and intimate. And there was a couple people there that hadn't done anything yet. It was like their first thing post pandemic, and they were so pleased to get to watch live comedy. And it was
that.
just, and the headliner just knocked it out of the park. Like, oh my
Oh,
gosh, she
good.
killed so hard.
Well, that's really cool because, like, a lot of people, that a lot of people probably don't know that for the last year plus, you and I and a lot of comedians just dropped out of the scene for a year.
Yeah,
But a lot of us just did the grind on Zoom shows and made it work, like it wasn't the same, but it was something. And it's like something I will always remember, like if I ever make it to 80, back in the pandemic, like I'll remember that.
yeah, no, for
So,
sure. It's I've been having this like weird reunion with doing live stuff where I am I like my confidence has gotten weirdly shaken
mhm,
because I've done a couple live things, but like maybe it's because I've gotten to I was able to achieve a certain level comedically and with my writing that I hadn't been able to do live yet. So I did a lot of growing in Zoom,
mhm,
and I know that like my expectations for myself are like a lot higher than they used to be, like cuz I've been able to see what I can do. And I'm just not meeting my own expectations live yet, but I think it's just cuz these expectations are just like so much higher. And
well, I
so
think
that's been
the
different.
two worlds just need to fully come together, and they're here. They just need to be here, maybe.
Yeah, well, I will say, like, my own show that I'm producing, I'm zooming all of it. Like, all of it's being
Hmm.
streamed because I want to maintain the accessibility of Zoom, even though it's a live
Right,
show.
right.
And so, like, I want to do that. And I felt more comfortable when I was doing my show in my backyard and that it was being zoomed. Like, something about it being on Zoom, like, there was a comfortability, I guess. And it was just like, I was able to like really like sink my teeth into it, feel like more
Hmm.
grounded in my performance, just felt better.
Right. Well, the first few times that I went out, I was very conscious of being around other people, like
Mm,
people breathing and sneezing and, that kind of stuff. And it was just kind of like it felt like a little too much at first, but now it feels good. It feels good to be around people. It feels good to hug and that kind of stuff. It does.
yeah.
So tell us your social media so we can follow you.
Yeah, it's pretty easy. It's the Katie Zane on TikTok and Instagram.
Okay.
I was always terrible at Twitter, so I don't even.
I know Twitter's hard.
It's
And what about
Twitter's
your Venn?
overwhelming. Like that was my biggest issue with Twitter's. I was like, I just couldn't figure out how to like cultivate a feed. Like I just was like, this is too much, and I don't know.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's too much. I don't know. I just don't like it myself. But your Venmo,
Oh,
because you
but
never know.
Venmo is at Katie Dash Zane.
All right. Well, it was lovely to have you on, you and Charlie, and I know I'll see you around
Yeah, thank
um,
you so much for having me.
Zoom land and everything. Uh, I was like, I want to make sure that I don't like disconnect and then go, oh, I forgot to say that, but that will probably happen. So
No worries.
I will edit this and stuff and put it out all everywhere. But it was great seeing you, great having you as always, and Have a good rest of the day.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, Cheri. You're a comedian. I have like so much like respect and like honestly, like I look up to you quite a bit. So thank you so much for having me.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.